Hello, and welcome to the Smut Show,
a weekly podcast from your new internet book besties.
We discuss all things spicy books and mix in a little bit of motherhood, life, self-care, and everything in between.
So sit back,
grab a beverage,
and let's chat.
Hello, and welcome to the Smut Show. I'm Neely.
And I'm Rachel, and we have a guest that I'm very excited about today. Olivia Dade grew up in as an undeniable nerd, prone to ignoring the world around her as she read any book she could find. Her favorites, though, were always romances. You're in the right space, okay? As an adult, she earned an MA in American history and worked in a variety of jobs that required the donning of actual pants, which sounds terrible. Neither Neely or I work actual pant jobs anymore, and it's very nice. Yeah.
No hard pants.
No hard pants. As a colonial Williamsburg interpreter, and I feel like we need to talk more about that.
We're going to circle back.
We're going to circle back to that. A high school teacher, academic tutor, and of course, a librarian.
Now, however, she has finally achieved her lifelong goal of wearing pajamas all day as a hermit-like writer and enthusiastic hag. She currently lives outside Stockholm with her delightful family and their ever-burgeoning collection of books. Olivia, welcome. We are so happy to have you. And
I am absolutely delighted to chat with you all today. I'm happy to circle back to my time in side hoops and actually at one point firing muskets and cannons. So
what?
Happy.
I am sat.
I see the direct line from an MA in American history to that, but I don't know that I've ever talked to somebody who worked as a colonial Williamsburg interpreter, and so you are my first.
Well, I am delighted to represent the entire group.
Yeah. The entire community.
Yes, exactly. All of them.
I love it so much. Okay, well, we will talk more about that. I'm sure it'll come up in our interview. But first, we're going to do some 1-star and 5-star moments. So, Neely, would you like to start us off on your 1-star, 5-star moments for the week?
I put on our outline 1 star. All the ones. Okay,
everything.
Listen.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to try to keep this brief for Olivia's sake. Last week, I had an eye issue where I sent Rachel a picture, and
Neely is falling apart, honestly.
I am falling apart. I woke up like 2 Saturdays ago, and I thought I had a sty, which I was like, oh, like that's not that big of a deal. Like warm compress, it'll go away. It did not go away. So Andrew finally on Tuesday was like, will you just go to the eye doctor? And I was like, sure. So I went. She's like, well, it's not a sty. I'm like, oh, is it pink eye? She's like, no, it's an infection in your eye tissue. I'm like, all right, cool.
Great.
So anyway, on like day, I don't know, 8 or 9 of 20 days of antibiotics for that. So that's, it's all better now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's all better. Like doesn't hurt or anything, but I will always finish my antibiotic.
It, yes.
I will finish my antibiotic. Anyway, and as of recording, I feel like I can safely say this because as of airing, he will be back. But as of recording, Andrew is on day 2 of a business trip to Philadelphia, and I wouldn't normally care about him being gone because like the kids are kind of old enough at this point where it's not awful, except Charlotte had a 7 p.m. soccer game last night and she's 5. She's a 5-year-old child.
Yeah, that's my bedtime.
Like, weird. She goes to bed at 6:30.
Yeah.
So
she's like, what is this night?
Before the game, we were waiting like to leave, and she's laying on the family room floor in her soccer uniform with her head down. And I'm like, well, this is gonna go great.
Yeah.
And when I tell you we got smoked by this other team,
they all stay up late.
I'm not convinced they were actually kindergartners. These girls were so tall and so good. So they're either not kindergartners or they've been playing soccer since they could stand up.
Yeah.
Because our girls were just like, they tried.
Yeah.
We were to the point where we were like, good hustle. Good job staying on your feet. Like, we're just trying to cheer. Like, good job being awake.
Yes.
And
you're here.
Also, I was telling Olivia and Rachel before that I have like some sort of like something happening with my body where drinking and eating hot things hurts me. But if you know me, you know I will not drink an iced coffee if you put a gun to my head. So I'm keeping with my hot coffee and just suffering through it a little bit. But my 5-star is that I watched the Summer I Turned Pretty finale this morning.
I haven't watched it yet.
I'm not gonna. Well, I'm not, because Rachel and I are gonna record a whole episode about our thoughts on the series and everything. But I did get up and watch it, and my other 5-star is that my kids have no activities tonight.
That is
so
a 5-star.
Everybody's gonna go to bed early, and I'm gonna get some girl dinner.
I love
it. Watch Gilmore Girls, because I'm fully in a Gilmore Girls rewatch right now. Since Andrew's gone, I feel like I can comfortably do that.
Absolutely.
So,
Olivia, what any 1s and 5s on your end?
I just literally about a half hour ago finished. I've taken up in the last few months a new hobby, because my goal about a year ago was to have a hobby that did not involve my computer. Like I needed to spend more time away from my computer. It's specifically something to do with my hands, just to sort of do a different sort of activity that, was very far afield from writing. And I took up randomly diamond painting, which I'm kind of obsessed with right now.
Yes. Does it make your back hurt though? How do you...
I've been okay with it, but I also made sure that I move the canvas around so that I'm not like trying to place stuff a foot away from me.
Yeah.
Like, because otherwise I think I would be, I'm kind of top heavy to begin with. And so like, I can't lean over that much or else like gravity will drag me down.
Bad things will happen.
No, it hasn't been too much. Occasionally my neck and shoulders get a little stiff, and I really love doing sort of older art. So I actually just a half hour ago finished a diamond painting of Van Gogh's The Mulberry Tree,
I love it.
which is really pretty. So that was probably my 5-star in recent days.
I love that.
Yeah, the 1-star is probably anytime I read the news.
Yeah.
Oh, girl.
Honestly.
I forgot to mention this in my 5-star, but I bet you can relate. My husband and I are going to Europe in 3 weeks. And I was like, I'm kind of embarrassed for people to know I'm from America.
Yeah. Just don't talk.
It's, yeah. I mean, my family and most of my friends are in the U.S. I mean, I'm still a citizen of the U.S. as well as of Sweden. I mean, we came here in 2018, and I still feel very much American. In some ways, you never feel more American than when you're not in America anymore, because it's clear to you sort of the ways in which you've been shaped by it.
Yeah.
I feel super privileged to be here, and it hurts. It hurts me. Yeah, it's very upsetting to me. So, so again, sorry, that was just my honest answer.
No, I mean, it's been a really, I think no matter where you stand as a person, it's been just like a really heavy couple of weeks. I mean, to be frank, it's been a really heavy, like 10 years.
Yeah.
But I think what happened last week, happening quite literally right before 9/11, which is like always like a very heavy reminder of things in our country. It was just like a lot. It felt like it was a lot. And people are like, I just don't want to be on social media. I'm like, that's great for you. It's literally my job to be on social media. I can't be off social media. So like, I can't turn it off.
I will say
I do live with a man who loves to have the news on 24 hours a day. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, being online is part of my work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also a pleasure. It's where, I'm not on Twitter anymore, but when I used to be on Twitter, that's where I met like my circle of dear friends of the past decade. So, but it is also part of my job, to be online. And you also, like, I think it's important to stay informed and to be sort of an informed citizen. On the other hand, like, I would like to maintain my sanity. So it's hard to, like, balance the two. So I spend a lot of time obsessively diamond painting.
Yes, I think that's a great coping mechanism. We talk a lot about this at our house, too, because I think, the desire to stay informed and I think the responsibility to stay informed, but then also just, like, protecting your mental well-being and focusing a lot on, like, just staying present in your life, and when you have to be online a lot, trying to do hobbies that are not online. I think that's great.
And Rachel and I have talked about this. Our kids are getting to ages where they ask like a lot of very big questions. And I've written about this lately too, where like you like, it's hard sometimes to not just be like, listen, this is the state of the world. And with Liam, my son, who's almost 9, I really do. I mean, we're pretty frank with him about things that happened. I mean, like, he's very aware why he has to have lockdown drills at school. And I mean, my 5-year-old I always joke, she's so blissfully unaware of like anything that doesn't involve her.
Yeah.
Like, if it is not directly affecting her, she's like, I no idea what's going on around me. But Liam is an empath. And so like he very much can like sense when heavy things are going on, even if he doesn't know about it. And because of his age, I always worry about him hearing things at school. And so I'd always rather be the one to tell him first rather than him be like, wait a second, what happened? And then I'm like, ugh, what friend told you?
Yeah.
Let me
And
check
what did
their
they say
parents'
about
political.
it?
Let me check who their parents follow on Instagram before I address this.
Truly.
But yeah, it's just, and I can't imagine, Olivia, like, what do people over there think, like, of America?
I don't know, because I'm a hermit.
I get
try
that.
not to leave.
But I will say that I think U.S. media, online and print, all of that sort of gets exported internationally. So any sort of, I think the information pipeline has become somewhat polluted in recent years, and some of that reaches here. So that, I had a neighbor comment on things the other day, and my mind almost exploded because it was such a, I think, misrepresentation of actual facts. But I think that, right, the news that makes it here may not always be the most accurate. I mean, I will say that the moment we moved, when our son was just right before he started 3rd grade. And in his previous school, which was a lovely school, like there was, you had to you had to get buzzed into the building, scan a card to get in, and go through like bulletproof doors. And like to check in, there was like, again, more bulletproof glass, show your ID, and so forth. And we went to his school for the first time for 3rd grade. And we're like, well, if we need to visit, what do we do? And they're like, you walk in. Like there's no barriers. There was no bulletproof glass. It was how I grew up, where like you kids in school, you go to their classroom and like go see them. And there weren't like 18 measures to do that. And I cried when they told me that. Like I started crying because it was more what I wanted for my child. More like, again, I'm 48, so like I grew up at a different time. And
I mean, I'm almost 42, so
yeah. It was just, that was more what it was like when I was, when I was in elementary school. And that makes me, he does now have to scan a pass to get in, but he's in high school now. And he's also in downtown Stockholm, his high school. So like, that's a little bit different because there have been occasional issues with like, terrorist stuff and stuff in Stockholm in the past, because it's a major world
bigger
city. So this is the first time since he left the US where he's had any real sort of like security, and even this is nothing compared to, when I taught high school briefly. I really loved a lot of aspects of it, but I do remember, sorry, we can cut all this out.
No, I love it. This is what's fascinating about talking to different people.
But I remember that when we had one of the active shooter drills, and like closing the shades, locking the doors, putting stuff in the door window, and then shuffling all the kids in the corner and just standing myself in front of them, like in the drill, because I mean, my role is to protect them, so like with my body as necessary.
And don't get us started on how little respect teachers get for the fact that they quite literally have to be human shields for children.
Right.
I will never stop banging my head against the wall about how insane that is.
Yeah.
And that moment is actually in one of my books, Teach Me, which is it's a romance between 2 high school teachers. Like sort of that moment was so sticks in my mind so clearly that like it ended up, as many sort of the moments that do stick in my mind ended up in a book.
Yeah.
I swear they're rom-coms though.
Yeah. And like they're all funny. Okay.
And I will say, like, Zomromcom, I think, is the main one we're talking about today. I mean, it was deliberately written to make people, above all else, like, to make people laugh. Because I was like, we desperately
Yeah.
need something, I think, lighter. And I needed to write something lighter, even lighter than my usual rom-coms. And my goal was to distract and amuse people for a few hours at a time.
Yeah.
I love
You were
I
successful.
love to be distracted and amused.
Yeah.
Rachel, what are your 1s and 5s?
Okay, so my 5-star on Monday, I got to have a little bit of a spa day, which was very nice. I last week, at the end of last week, I kind of hit a wall and was, exhibiting all of the classic stress behaviors. To much to the dismay of my family. And so we were sitting at dinner and my husband, Brian, he was like, you should have a spa day. And I was like, you don't need to say any more. I will go book myself something. And so I did. And so it was really nice to go. Go lock your phone in a locker for a couple hours, and I went and got a facial, and it was very nice. And I sat in the little, relaxation room and read a physical book, which I haven't read a physical book in a long time. And so that was very nice, and had some tea, and it was just a lovely experience. So I think that was my 5-star. And then my 1-star, yesterday was Brian's birthday, and he is a foodie. And so this is such a ridiculous 1-star moment. But we went to dinner last night at, I'm not going to name the restaurant. Okay. But it is a very highly recommended restaurant in the Dallas area.
Is it where in Dallas? What area?
I will tell you later.
All right.
I will tell you later.
I need to know what restaurant.
I'm not about to throw it under the bus on the podcast, but because I think for what it was attempting to do, I think it was successful at that. However, we did the tasting menu, like the chef tasting menu, and when we go do a tasting menu anywhere, not that this happens very often, but when it does, I'm like, okay, I'm open to trying some new things, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this experience was a lot outside my comfort zone. And pretty much everything was raw in some way, shape, or form. And that's just like, my stomach is not built for that.
I would be like, thanks, but no, I wouldn't eat.
I mean, I did not eat very much. And then my stomach was hurting this morning, and I was like, it's mad that I didn't eat
I need my
anything
food
processed last night. Yeah, or cooked. So I don't know what that says about me. Probably says more about me than it says about the restaurant. They were very nice. The presentation was beautiful. The actual food I will not seek out again in the future. So that's my silly 1-star, because the state of the world, I'm like, I needed something a little bit ridiculous, and we laughed about it. We had a fun we were like, maybe we should go. We did go by Brahms on the way home and got some French fries and ice cream. So it was all good.
Well, I'm not reading. I mean, I am reading, but I wanted to share that Andrew and I started watching The Pit after I saw that it won 700 Emmys. Yeah. And I love Noah Wyle. I was a big ER person back in the day. Big ER girly.
This does not surprise me about you.
I also love like the first 10 or so seasons of Grey's Anatomy. So I love a medical drama in general, which is funny because I actually don't like any sort of blood or gore as a person, but for some reason it doesn't bother me in medical shows. I don't know. Anyway, we watched the first 2 episodes. It's really cool. I mean, I know that it's been around for a minute, and so this is not new news to most of our listeners who probably have seen it. But it's done kind of like 24, which is one of my favorite shows ever, which is where every episode is an hour, like
in
clocked
the day.
an hour. It's like 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. And I'm like, I love shows like that. And Andrew the whole time was like, do you think this much stuff happens in an ER in an hour? And I'm like, yeah,
Yes,
probably so.
Yeah.
I was like, in a major city, yes,
Yeah.
I 1000%. We've just only been to children's ERs because our, you know, where things happen, but it's smaller scale.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not the doctors. We're in a room.
Yeah. We don't see everything that's happening. Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, if you haven't watched it, it's really good. We like it so far. Of course, we started it, watched a couple episodes, and then he left town. So now I'm just twiddling my thumbs, waiting for him to come back so we can watch more.
There you go.
But I can guarantee you, we will probably finish it this weekend. So
perfect. Olivia, what are you reading and or watching right now or recently?
Something I watched recently that I really enjoyed was a movie I think that was on, as it turns out, because you have to realize I'd heard good things about The Gorge, that particularly as someone who wrote like a zombie romance, that like if you like an action adventure story with a romance with like, you know, they're like, you will love this. This seems like exactly what you should be watching.
Yeah.
And I'm like, great. I'm like, where can I, because I'm in Sweden. And I was just like, where can I didn't see it in theaters. I had no idea where it had showed. So I went on to eBay and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to get more physical media again. So I was like, I'll get a DVD. So I bought the DVD and I got the DVD, and large portions of the DVD are not in a recognizable language to me, like the actual movie is. And I was like, oh, and then I looked and saw that it was Apple TV Plus. So I got a pirated version.
Oh my gosh.
I did not realize. I was like, I'm going to be a good, you know, I want to get the physical media. And like, as it turns out, that meant that it was pirated, but it was really an enjoyable watch.
You're like, I did not know.
I didn't know. I believe it was strongly an intellectual property, but I did not understand what was happening here. I'm like, that's a good price for that movie. Yeah. Like, yeah, sure, I can afford that.
You're like, I'm you know, buying from a reseller. I'm, you know, buying secondhand. I'm doing
carbon
for the environment. Yeah,
all the things.
So I inadvertently did that. But it was like, I thought that the romance was charming. There was a lot of like, again, actiony stuff. It was very, I think for people who are paranormal romance and action sort of romance fans, like I think that it's a great like you know, visual analog to a lot of those stories. So yeah, I thought it was super enjoyable.
Okay. I obviously just finished Zomromcom. We talked about that. But I am also reading I'm going to get it wrong. I think it's called A Vow and Vengeance by Jacqueline Rodriguez. And it comes out in January. And I think we're going to have her on the podcast. I'm very excited about that. But it is a tarot fantasy romance. And I don't know. I'm very early into starting it, but I think it's all like around tarot. Like each of the chapters starts with like an explanation of one of the tarot and like how it fits into the story, the world that they're in. So I'm very excited. I will come back with more on that, but I'm very excited to dive in. I feel like it's the perfect, like, I'm in the season where I'm reading a paranormal or I'm reading a fantasy or I'm reading something like that because it's fall and that's what we do. So I'm very much enjoying it so far. Okay. Are we ready to jump into the interview?
We are ready.
Perfect. Okay. We always start with what's your villain origin story and basically just how did you get where you are today? Start as early as you want, okay?
I mean, I ask myself this often, like it's very much the talking head son. Well, how did I get here? Well, I'm a lifelong romance reader. My mom had a pile of paperbacks in the left of her closet that I was told not to read. No. So as soon as I was left unsupervised for any length of time, I dove headfirst into that pile. starting like at 6 or 7.
Oh my gosh, I
Like,
love that
so
so
they
much.
were, and again, this is like early 80s
Mhm.
romance. So we're talking spunky virgins getting kidnapped, dubcon up the wazoo, like a lot of pirates. So like there's a lot of stuff I did not
Yeah.
understand. Like a lot of violet eyes.
Yeah.
A lot of violet eyes.
Oh my.
There's a lot of stuff I didn't understand until later, but I did sort of enjoy. I just read voraciously. So I was like, well, this is other reading, and
Mhm.
I the love of romance really never left me through the years. It's just the romances I read changed over
Mhm.
time. And and but I always assumed that it would just be like my joy and my hobby, not my job,
Yeah.
because I have a more academic educational background
Mhm.
and I never really thought I could write fiction. I knew that I really enjoyed writing, yeah, like nonfiction essays, and my eventually my master's thesis and so forth. Like I never minded writing papers. I
Mhm.
actually enjoyed that process. It's I know that sounds,
So nerdy.
I mean, yes, it's so nerdy, but it is also true. Like
Yeah.
that was part of, the pleasure for me. And I actually was in a doctoral program for US history, but then kind of began to question whether I wanted to be in academia.
Mhm.
So I left a little bit after my master's and then basically just figured out like what can you do with a master's degree in American history?
Yeah.
And the answer is not a lot of
You can
things.
be a Colonial Williamsburg interpreter.
Interpreter. I had actually been working summers already and Christmases, winter holidays at Colonial Williamsburg. And so I worked there full time for several years and then became a high school teacher, like we talked about. And then I met my husband online and he was living in Maryland. So I moved
Mm.
and yeah, just bumped around a lot of different jobs, bounced from job to job and then became a librarian for 5 years. And then at that point, I started writing. So that was about 11 years ago. So I was, 37, 38. And it was so lovely to sort of revisit that part of myself that I had not sort of experienced
Mhm.
let's see, I left graduate school in 2000. So, I mean, I was about 24
Mhm.
when I left. And I had not used sort of the writing portion sort of my brain since then. And it was so joyful. And it was also the beauty of writing fiction was that unlike some of my academic writing, which really used like my brain, but writing romance sort of uses, I think, other parts of me that are important to
Yeah.
me, like my
Mhm.
heart,
Mhm.
as
It's a
well
much
as
more emotional experience, I would assume.
right.
Yeah.
And I can make it funnier. Like I did sneak in occasional jokes like in my other stuff, but like you're trying to sound like smart and
Yeah.
so I really got to use all of my sort of personality in my writing and it was just a joy and I haven't looked back since. So it's 11 years and counting and which in the publishing industry is like dog years. So
Yeah.
it's been
It's been a
it's been
long
a
time.
while.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that so much. Okay, so you talked a little bit about this, but why specifically romantic comedies instead, you could go straight romance or historical or contemporary, but why is it important for you to include that comedic element in your stories?
Well, I mean, one would have thought that the natural fit would have been historical romance,
Mhm.
Mhm.
but I would have been so concerned about getting all the details right
Yeah.
that I would have just been frozen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I would have been able to write because I would have been so worried that I was misrepresenting
Mhm.
something in the story.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to sort of remove that barrier to entry,
Mhm.
which is why I started writing contemporary romance. And then I think every writer has certain skills that they sort of come in with from the beginning.
Mhm.
And then there are certain things they have to work on. Like I really had to work very hard on sort of upping my game when it came to description and setting
Mhm.
because it for a lot of times, unless I make myself think about where they are and what it will look like, they are doing everything in a formless void.
Yeah.
Like they are chatting and thinking and feigning in
Yeah.
a formless
Yeah.
void. And there's
There
a
might be a
mattress
bed,
somewhere,
there
but
might not
like,
be. Yeah.
right. And I really had to work on sort of trying to do better about description, do better about figurative language and
Mhm.
things like that. But one thing that sort of I think was in my tool belt from the start was actually was humor.
Yeah.
So, and it made sense to sort of lean into that because it was something that I sort of had from the start. I mean, I have a story called Cover Me, which is not funny at all because it was written originally for an anthology, and it's about it's a romance where a marriage of convenience for health insurance because she finds a lump in her breast. She's in her 40s and like needs to like go get she needs to get
Yeah.
treated.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm sure there are authors out there who could have made that a comedic.
Yeah.
But for me, that wasn't what I was writing a story for. Like I
Yeah.
have a long history of breast cancer in my family.
Yeah.
And so that one has no ha-has.
Yeah.
And that was actually really revelatory for me because I got some really good feedback on that story. And it was the first time where I kind of had tested out, will people still like my writing if I'm not making them laugh? Because I wasn't sure before.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe my writing is not strong enough to sort of carry the story if it's not all comedic.
Yeah.
And so that was actually something else that I had to work on. I've had to work on over the years is sort of allowing sort of naked emotion,
Yeah.
like undistanced by irony, undistanced by trying to make people laugh, but just sort of just sitting with emotion.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've worked with too over the years.
Yeah.
But I think that it makes sense that for most of the time, something that sort of is sort of just naturally in my writing to sort of lean into it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you do such a good job of it. And I think that comedy is hard, period, no matter what form it's in. And I do feel like that's one of those things where you do have to come into it kind of already knowing, having a familiarity with comedic timing or just, enjoying that portion of it. Because if that's not really in your wheelhouse, then it's even harder to write it and have it land right.
Right. And it's not something but in recent years, I don't know if it's as much now, but there's a time period where like everything was labeled a rom-com.
Yes.
Including things that I think were clearly not comedic.
Yes.
So I was like, and if everything's a rom-com, nothing is a rom-com.
Yes.
But like I try very hard, even my books that have more emotional sort of heft to them, like At First Sight, which is a rom-com and I think is very funny, but it's also about depression.
Yeah.
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 But I try to make sure that I'm not lying when I call it a rom-com. So there has to be legitimate comedic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've actually recently discussed tragedy cosplaying as rom-com.
Yeah. It's like, please don't do that.
In movies, where it's like the new trend that Netflix is going to advertise a movie and you're like, oh, look at this cute rom-com. And you're like, boom, main character dies.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not funny.
No.
Like,
no.
Also, really random aside, if y'all haven't seen the trailer for it, and I'll have to look in a little bit and see what the movie's called. I saw a trailer yesterday for a rom-com, and I'm like watching the trailer. I'm like, this story seems so familiar to me. And I realized the whole thing is like a copy of You've Got Mail, except it's texting and cars and not email and books.
Okay.
But quite literally, I mean, Rachel, we'll
you're gonna have
send you
to
the
send
trailer.
it to
I
me.
was like, I'm watching it. I'm like, do they know that they copied You've Got Mail? I mean, I will watch it.
Yeah.
I love You've Got Mail. I will watch it. But I'm like even the part in You've Got Mail where he's going to meet her at the restaurant and she's got we'll have like a rose or whatever. Yeah. It's like, he's going to meet her for a drink and she's going to have something else so he knows who she is. And I'm like, do you not have internet? Have you not Googled each other?
I think I've seen, I think I heard about this somewhere. I forget the name, but I actually do think it is from what I heard, I got the sense it was a deliberate homage.
Okay.
Yeah, that would
You've
make
Got
much
Mail.
more sense.
Which is, and You've Got Mail is
and
just the
that's
shop around the
fine.
corner.
Yeah.
So, like,
Right.
You've Got Mail is also a remake. So, yeah.
Yes.
Which, like, I'm totally fine if they're, like, deliberately doing it. I just didn't know if they were like, we're going to pretend that this is an original story and see what happens.
That would be
'Cause
hard
I'm like,
to get away
I
with.
think we've seen this film before.
Yeah.
And I will watch it every time.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, talk to us a little bit about your newest release, Zomromcom. This is your first venture into paranormal, is that correct? Okay, so what?
It is my first published, yeah.
Your first published, there we go. I love that. You're like, yes, there are other things out there that you cannot read that are a venture into paranormal. But your first published venture into paranormal, what inspired that?
Well, I've always read sort of the entire gamut of romance. So, I read Kisses Only, I read erotic romance and everything in between. I read paranormal, I read historical, I read contemporary, I read adventure, I read sci-fi, like basically everything. I don't tend to read YA, and I don't tend to read sort of religious romance. Other than that,
yeah,
I read it. If it sounds good to me, I'm there. And so I've always loved paranormal romance. And, I grew up there was a time, I think, in the early 2000s where, like, there was a boom of sort of paranormal, a lot of times, like, vampires, a lot of leather on the covers. And I, was reading through that and really loved a lot of it. And when I started writing, my goal was actually always to write different sorts of stories. But that's generally discouraged until you make a reputation in one subgenre.
Yeah.
Which is not to say, like I said, I've actually had, like, around 2016, 2017, I wrote 2 futuristic romances, which will never leave my hard drive, and for good reason. They earned that spot forever on my hard drive. But, so I always actually did write different things, just not publish them. But I've been writing for a few years, and a couple years ago, I had sort of a brief period where I didn't have anything under contract that I didn't have a deadline for several months. And so I looked through my story ideas file just to see, like, what is there? Was there something that sounds good to me? And years ago, I know that it's been used before by other people, but I had sort of thought of the idea of a book called Zomromcom, which I found personally very amusing.
Yes.
Because I was like, it's exactly what it is on the tin. Like, if you're going to write a zombie romance like that, comedic zombie romance, clearly that would be that would have to be the title. And I put it in my story ideas folder with no intention of ever doing it, because it's not like there was a big international clamor for me to write a zombie rom-com. But I was like, well, it's dangerous curiosity, because I thought to myself, well, how would I, like, okay, like, obviously I'm not going to do this because that's ridiculous, but if I were to do it, how would I even go about it? Like, how do I make something, how would you make that, how would I make that comedic? How could I make that work with sort of my author voice? And then, the first thing I decided was, well, I would have to make them so they were never human, so that you were not, because to me, there's just too much inherent, for it to be sort of a lighter, like, airy rom-com, to think that maybe she would see, like, her dead parents, or her, like, or her neighbors. Like, to me, I was like, that's not how I want to play it. I'm like, so if we make a government experiment gone wrong, that we sort of get past that. And then the next thing I knew, I had an outline of the story and talked to my agent. I was like, so how would you feel about me writing a zombie rom-com? And to her credit, she's like, go forth.
Love it.
Do your thing. Okay. Like, if that's what you feel like doing. So I did. And it was just such a joyful experience, because it wasn't under contract.
Yeah.
I wasn't writing to anyone in particular. I wasn't writing under a deadline. So the book was exactly, I wrote something to make myself laugh and to see what I could do. Like, could I write something that was more action-y less introspection heavy and a little bit lighter as far as emotional sort of heft.
Yeah.
And was that something that was in my wheelhouse too? And it was really delightful. I had a great time writing it. I did not edit. I mean, I edited the book, don't get me wrong. But like things where I was like, things that I'd normally sort of be like, if I thought it was funny, it went in there.
Yeah.
And I assumed
Mhm.
that when I did sell the book, I assumed that my editors would want me to take more of it out. But part of the unfiltered nature, like
Yeah.
what is sometimes referred to as unhinged nature, part of it was part of what my editors loved about it.
Yes.
And that was really delightful for me.
I honestly never knew what sentence was going to come next, which I think was what made it really fun. Is I had no idea what was coming, and in the best way, not in like there's a small element of suspense, I guess, in certain parts of it, but more so just like the ridiculousness of it. Like every time I thought you were gonna zig, you zagged, and it was so much fun to read, and just like utter ridiculousness and just joy,
Right. I have a real fondness for like absurdist humor to a certain extent. And also, again, I really was trying to balance, like, if it's going to be a Zomromcom, there has to be a certain amount of gore and action. So, like, you have to have that.
Yeah.
But if it's supposed to be a Zomromcom, there also has to be comedic counterweight to it. And it was fun because, with contemporary romance, if you're into someone and they're into you, in the modern world, like, there aren't that many, if you're both consenting and single adults, there are not that many barriers to you actually being together.
Right. Right.
Other than like miscommunication and shyness, but like that's hard to sell that for an entire book. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like usually there has to be some sort of internal reasons that are keeping people apart. Right?
Yeah.
And one of the joys of Zomromcom was that the antagonist is not like, what's keeping them apart is not internal stuff. What's keeping them apart is there are zombies.
Yeah, like there's this really bad thing happening on the outside.
Right. So they could be a battle couple, like that I didn't have to like have a third act breakup or anything like that. And also it was delightful because like I reached a certain point where they end up in the mall.
Yeah.
And originally they were just going to kiss. But then I was like, well, it's not like there's anything internal keeping them apart.
No.
I guess they could just bang.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, we can just jump to whatever we want right now.
Why am I not giving them orgasms? So it ended up being a much more, a much hotter book than any, with a lot more sex than I'd written recently too.
Yeah.
And that was also delightful because that was another part of like, I think my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like after reading tens of thousands of romances over the year and like all sorts of sex scenes.
Yeah.
Like I had no issues writing sex scenes and I enjoy it. So I got to have a little fun with that too.
Yeah. I loved it. And I love this is not on our questions, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. First of all, I love the Lenny Kaufman cover. But I loved this cover, and I again did not know what I was getting into, and I knew it was going to be zombies and a rom-com, but like that is all you needed to say, and I was like, I'm in. And so I did not know, and so the way that you set up the world, there was some world building that had to happen, which you don't have to do in a contemporary, but I think it was fun to see kind of your take on the setting of a world that I can put myself into, but it was also not, a real something that's really going to happen. But it was so interesting. I was like, I could totally see myself doing this. I would absolutely die immediately, but
this is true. Like anytime people are like, well, and then like an apocalypse, like post-apocalyptic world, like what would your role be? I'd be like, my role would be to die quickly and probably horribly.
Yes, the dead
Same.
one. I would be the dead one.
I would die so quickly.
Right.
I loved it.
So quickly.
Okay, so which of your, and you can talk about this within the context of Zomromcom, and if you also want to talk about it within, your other books as well, but which of your main characters do you feel like you most identify with? You did kind of talk about how you like to put your experiences that kind of stick out in your head into your books. Did any of those, this is another random question, did any of those make it into Zomromcom?
Well, the couch is my couch.
The Pottery Barn couch?
The Pottery Barn couch is my couch.
I love it.
So that is there. I think the rest of it is mostly, I mean, it is the memory of like malls from my, 20s and so forth.
100%.
Like it is the memory of those malls, which was kind of fun to sort of revisit as well. But not so much in Zomromcom. And I realized I never actually gave like the 2-sentence sort of description of it. So the idea is that there was a zombie outbreak, a government experiment got wrong. Like the zombies were driven back by humans and supernaturals who sort of emerged from the woodwork. They'd been secret to that point because their help was needed to drive back the zombies. And many of them could be killed by the zombies too. The zombies are kept in sort of a compound in Northern Virginia near DC because the government secretly kind of thinks maybe it could do something else with them in the future. And then the people who live around it are in the containment zone because it's cheap real estate near DC. And honestly, people will live near zombies if there's cheap real estate near DC. And except that then there's another breach and the zombies come out. Edie, who lives in the containment zone and has ever since her parents were killed in the first breach of the containment zone 20 years before, tries to save her neighbor Chad, who's like this 20-something bro, like kind of not too sharp bro, with a burrito, which is the only thing she has on her. And it turns out like he saves her, and it turns out he's not 20-something. His name is not Chad, and he is definitively not an easygoing bro. He is Max, who's a vampire of indeterminate age.
How old is he?
Indeterminate age.
How old is he?
He will not admit to it. In my mind, the reason that his original... I thought medieval France.
Okay,
So I was looking up medieval French names, and I was like, which one makes a plausible romance hero name? And I found Maxime. I'm like, oh, you could go by Max.
Yeah.
But as I was reading that list, I came across Gaston.
Yeah, I died.
And the thing is that for most of like history since medieval times, that would have been a fine name.
Yeah.
That's an unexceptional name. So I tried to imagine this vampire who's been alive for like, 800 years or 700 years, having the name Gaston, everything's great. And then suddenly Disney puts out Beauty and the Beast, and he can no longer be Gaston because that's what people like ask how many eggs he eats each day, or whether he decorates with antlers. So he has to go by his middle name, Maxime, instead. Yeah. And then if you're going to give him the name Gaston, like it's like Chekhov's Gaston, you gotta use it.
Yes. It was so funny because every time she started singing, she would be like, no one. And I was like, what is she talking about? I mean, it caught me off guard. I was Max. It caught me off guard every time. I was like, what is she saying? Like, and then she would start singing and I just died. It was so good. I loved it. And I was really glad when, I was like, as I was reading at the beginning, I was like, if I'm about to have to read this whole romance where his name is Chad, where the male main character's name is Chad, I'm going to have to put a replacement name over it. And so I was really glad when we found out that was not his name.
Right. And that he had chosen that name because his character persona he was putting on was very much a Chad persona.
Yes.
So no, that wasn't. Anyway, but that is the thing. And so the two of them go sort of to go warn her neighbors because the government is supposed to swoop in and help if a breach happens. It doesn't. They don't know why. So they need to warn their neighbors, figure out what's happening, and try to sort of protect their community.
Yeah.
And so that's what she wants to do. He just wants to protect her.
Yeah.
he has really no desire to help their neighbors initially.
Yeah.
And then, and then adventures and sexy times in a pottery barn ensue.
Yeah, we love it. We love it.
In an abandoned pottery barn.
Yes. Yeah, not while people are shopping. Yeah.
I mean,
a lot of people are shopping.
Good clarification.
Yeah. Nobody was shopping in the pottery barn at the time of Sexy Times.
Right.
Anyway, all of that to say, who do you identify with most?
I mean, I think, like you said, all characters sort of have some aspect of me.
Yeah.
I would say At First Sight is, I didn't have to do a ton of research on what depression is like, because that's something that I have sort of chronic, especially seasonal depression here in Sweden. That's gotten way worse.
Yes.
So because just it's so dark during the winter here. I think Teach Me, that was my teaching. A lot of my teaching career is in there. I think those are probably the ones that are closest to my heart. Like I know sometimes people think that my Spoiler Alert series that I was meant to be sort of the stand-in for the female characters, but I have no desire to be with anyone famous, zero.
You're like,
people
no,
are like,
that doesn't sound good.
Do you think that the actors know you wrote this? I'm like, I hope not.
Yeah.
I would crawl beneath the Earth's crust and become a mole person.
Oh my gosh.
If I thought that they had. I don't, that's just not. So I actually do not really personally connect with those people as much. It was just fun stories to write. But yeah, I would say Teach Me and At First Sight are probably the ones that are the closest.
Yeah, I love that. What's been your most fun book to write?
The actual process of writing the book, it's a sort of tie between Zomromcom, because it really just was pure joy. I just had so much fun writing it. And also writing All the Feels, the second book in the Spoiler Alert series, because the character of Alex Woodrow, he is the male main character of Spoiler Alert is Marcus, and his best friend introduced in Spoiler Alert is Alex, who I did not know much about before I started writing him. I just knew there had to be a best friend who had to be impulsive because of things he does sort of halfway through Spoiler Alert, and it's in All the Feels too. But he sort of sprang fully fledged from my brain in the way very few characters do. Like, his voice was so distinct to me, and his personality was so distinct to me, and I thought he was hilarious. And so All the Feels was just a joy to write, in part because I had so much. I enjoyed the whole story, but I especially enjoyed writing in his POV because I found he is utterly ridiculous and, to me, very charming and hilarious. He's my chaos gremlin. Like my chaos gremlin golden retriever of a character, and I love him so much.
Yeah. Okay. How do you decide? And you talked a little bit about this with Zomromcom because you were able to write it when it wasn't under contract or anything like that. But other than that, how do you kind of decide what you're going to write next? Is it you're going into your document and picking what sounds good to do next, or what inspires you?
I mean, over the past few years, generally I have been on deadline or often past deadline. So like that determines what I write next. This was a very rare time when I was not. And what I did, was I looked at unless I had something sort of an idea that's been percolating that I really want to write next, then I'll check in my story ideas folder. And that has everything from possible titles with nothing else, because Zomromcom was only Zomromcom. Yeah. There was no other information available from my brain.
So that's it. You figure it out.
And then there are others where I might have like a basic premise, or I might even have a few paragraphs of sort of thoughts about a possible story. And then just see what I find brains really fascinating. I can tell that I'm into an idea if my brain starts, even when I'm not consciously trying to think about it, starts spontaneously coming up with like ideas. Oh, and she could do this, or this could happen. And then I know if that continues happening, then I know like my brain is digging into this story.
Yeah.
And then there's some people who can write. I have a dear friend who's I have many dear friends who are amazing writers, but one of them, and one of my closest friends, is Emma Barry. And she can kind of write, like, even if, an idea that may have been proposed by someone else, she can do that and write an
Wow.
amazing, beautiful story from that. If I am not writing what is foremost in my mind, it is a slog.
Yeah.
I've had to do it occasionally. And like, I think the stories, you can't necessarily tell that those stories were a lot harder for me to write. But when I have to write what is under contract or deadline and not what my brain is sort of tugging at the leash, trying to get me to write, it usually takes me like months longer to write the book because I'm fighting against. And then often whatever idea was tugging at the leash, by the time I'm done with the other book,
it's gone.
The moment has passed and I never really want to write it again. So like it would be, I think in the future, I'm going to try to do my best to like maybe give myself time to like make sure I'm writing the books that are foremost in my mind, that there's time to do that too. So
yeah. It's hard. I'm sure it's hard to balance which of those things comes next. Okay, you've got Second Chance Romance coming out later this year. What can you tell us about that book?
It is the second book in the Harlot's Bay series, sort of my coastal southeastern Maryland town, and coming after At First Fight. And the male main character was introduced in book one, Carl, who is the super cranky, foul-mouthed baker.
Love it.
In book one, and he listens to, some might even say obsessively listens to erotic monster romance, like audiobooks.
Love it.
And it's
Okay.
unclear. It's unclear in the first book, like why that is. Although I tried to give a few hints, like, because he gets dragged into an erotic romance reading book club called the Nasty Wenches. Because they're set in like there's like a historic Harlot's Bay. It's basically Colonial Williamsburg. And so the Nasty Wenches is a historian joke. But anyway, so he's dragged into that because he has listened to all of these monster romances, but the only ones he listens to are those by this author pen name Sadie Brazen. But I have hints that it's actually not Sadie Brazen that he's listening for. It's actually the narrator. And so the premise of Second Chance Romance is that sort of his high school almost was, but never quite was, boyfriend and girlfriend, Molly, who narrates monster romances for Sadie Brazen that he obsessively listens to. Like, there is a mistaken obituary that occurs for him that she hears about and is like, oh, he's this man that I had, this boy at the time that I had feelings for but haven't seen in 20 years has passed away, and she's unexpectedly really grief stricken about it. So she flies from California back to Harlot's Bay to pay her respects, only to find Carl alive and cranky in his bakery back room. And then it's basically his job then to try to convince her to stay, to give her a reason to sort of stay after having not seen her for 20 years. And he convinces her to stay until the 20-year reunion, which is occurring.
Okay.
Like, and they're going to have a big dance. And so, like, I got to the last, like, chunk of the book that's set in this dance. It's not prom, but it's like a reunion dance, but it is my homage to a lot of like the late 90s, early 2000s, like teen films where everything happens at prom.
Yes.
Like all the drama happens at prom.
Yes.
Except they're in their late 30s.
Yeah.
So it's that equivalent. And it was really a lot of fun to write. Because it's sort of grumpy, he's cantankerous. She is friendly, but is cynical and like keeps her distance. So like she has a little bit of like black cat energy, and he's just super cranky. But with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Super cranky. Like I think that Athena from the female main character of the first book refers to him as like a marshmallow that's been like put in the fire for too long for
Yeah.
some more. So like black and bitter on the outside,
Mhm.
like, you know, cranky, charred and bitter on the
Yeah.
outside, gooey,
Yeah.
sweet.
He's got like a
center.
soft interior, but then he's mad about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more he cares about something, the more he'll deny that he cares about something.
Right.
Yes.
No, we can't show
Yeah.
that we care. I love
Yeah.
that. Well, I'm very excited for that one. I
Yeah.
remember
Same.
reading the kind of synopsis on your website and just love the idea of it. And I love that he's been listening to monster erotica. I love that so much.
That's so funny to me.
I know.
Like, because I can just see, like, that, I don't know.
See
That's
this,
so silly.
this,
I
you
know.
know, burned marshmallow man listening to monster erotica. I love it.
You know, one of my favorite things about writing fictional Harlots Bay is the idea it's like the super, like, most sex positive, horniest town imaginable.
Mhm.
And so, like, to the point where they have two competing, like, rival adult stores, like toy stores.
Okay, I have to go
like,
back and read this
rivalry.
series now. I haven't read it yet, and I
So-
will need to be picking this up.
And yeah, and one of my great joys in the series as well was coming up with premises and titles for Sadie Brazen's books. Like, my favorite creation, there are many, is Loch Ness Master, where it's a cryptid, like, you know, Loch Ness shifter.
Yep.
And she falls into his lake, and turns out he's also a dom, because of course
Obviously.
he's also a dom.
Yeah.
And I was like, if someone has not written a book called Loch Ness Master, they should. Clearly.
Yeah. Here's the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please write this.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, well, kind of speaking on that, a good segue. What advice do you have for aspiring authors? Maybe somebody who wants to write this Loch Ness Master book. Yeah.
Some of my best advice in many facets of my life, but especially in this area, I always quote what Emma Barry once told me, because, you know, you put your work out into the world and it's going to be critiqued, and some people and that's the nature of things. It's what you should do. Like, if you don't like it, you say that you don't like it. If you do, you do. That's great. One thing she told me, because I am someone who I want everyone to like it.
Yeah.
But that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And what she told me was, she's like, you could write, every author has their authorial voice, right? They're sort of like your DNA is in that book. The things that interest you, that you tend to serve, your stories tend to revolve around. Thematically, you're also your writing style.
Yeah.
These are things that, like, it's, your authorial DNA, right? So everyone has their own voice. She said, you could write the best possible version of what you do, like, of what you're capable of, your authorial voice. You could write the best possible version of that, the platonic ideal of that.
Yeah.
And there are going to be people who don't like it. All you can do is try to find the people who do like it.
Yeah.
And then sincerely wish the best, good fortune to the people who don't, in hopes that they'll find someone they do like.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, there is a book out there for everyone, but no book is for everyone.
Yes.
And, like, you just have to accept that, like, it doesn't mean that it's a bad book.
No.
It just means that not everyone's going to love it. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Even if it's the best possible book you can write.
I do think that's a hard lesson to learn. And I think it's one that, you can't necessarily prepare yourself for, but I do feel like the more you write and the more you put out, the more you are gaining confidence in who you are as an author, right? And knowing that if it's not for somebody, that's okay, because you have people that it is for. So that's a tricky lesson to learn.
Right. But I mean, that was super helpful, and it's, something to remind yourself of. If, I think it is better to stay away from reviews because they're not for you.
I took my Goodreads off
I'm obviously the lone non-author here, and I don't read book reviews. I mean, first of all, I really never have. Like, I've never been one to be like, well, that's going to do it for me. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't even really read product reviews.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather try something myself. I think I've read books that people don't like. I've tried, clothes that people don't like.
Mhm.
I think it's, everything is a lot more nuanced than that. And I don't know. I'm not a review reader. And I kind of encourage everybody to not be a review reader. Like, I know that they're important for authors for a lot of reasons, but I also just think that, like, there are a lot of books that have really great reviews that I've read where I've been like, this was awful. Where the crawdads sing.
Neely.
Sorry, I've talked about my
The hill shall die
dislike
on.
for overly hyped books. Like, and I think that's another problem is books that are so overly hyped that you see everywhere, everybody's talking about. And then you read them and you have such high expectations. And it's kind of like a way, like a review could be the reverse of that, where all these people shit on a book and you love it. And then you're like, well, what's wrong with me that I loved it when all these people, I just think sometimes reviews can be a little dangerous. So if I'm going to even read reviews, I wait till I've read the book because
I love that.
I personally like to form my own opinion first. I don't even really do what I used to do with the TikToks anymore.
Yeah. Where you
I like search a book on TikTok. I mean, unless I'm like fed it and that's what makes me want to read it, which does happen sometimes. But I don't know. I think it's funny. As Rachel and I have done this podcast for over 2.5 years now, our opinions on a lot of these things have changed. And like, I think talking to authors, Rachel becoming an author, but also just like being a reader has just made my opinion on a lot of that change. And so many authors that I love, whose books I love, have not necessarily been well received. And so I'm just like,
yeah, you
just
gotta learn to trust your voice.
It's all relative. Right? Like, I love certain TV shows that people are like, that is so bad. And I'm like, oh, I liked it.
Yeah.
I mean,
let people live.
People like raw food, Rachel. And, other people might have loved that dinner. And it's just like, everything is but everything is so personal.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I don't know. Do we feel like reviews are even needed in life? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Good point.
Question to ponder.
All right, Olivia, the way we always end the interview portion is, what is a have to read book that you are always recommending to people?
Well, when I was trying to decide how to answer this, it's hard because there's like a million. I have a have to read author and then a have to read book.
Perfect.
So if people stand still long enough, I will recommend Jeannie Lynn to them. She started out with many, years ago with Harlequin Historical, and she broke new ground. Like a lot of times you'll see publicists say that someone is breaking new ground in romance, and in all honesty, usually that is not actually technically true. There are people who've done it before.
Yeah.
She literally broke new ground. Her Harlequin Historicals were based in the Tang Dynasty in China. She writes it beautifully.
Okay.
And her books are so good. And now she does sort of mystery set and sort of, historical mysteries set in China. And her books are just excellent, but they're also just really interesting. And she was a pioneer in what she did. So I recommend Jeannie Lynn to everyone, and her stuff's all great. And probably my favorite romance of all time is Joanna Bourne's The Black Hawk, which I think she's finished writing now. So like there's a limited number of her books in the world. Some of them, they're all good, but some of them are, they're all very good, but some of them are like some of the best books I've ever read in romance. She is she writes things, she describes things in ways that sounds like it should be a cliche, but it is not. But it is so true and so perfectly stated that you think, oh, isn't this a saying that everyone says? No, she made that up.
Yeah.
Like she is, and she has these grace notes of character, like things that characters do that is, I went to a workshop before where she talked about deep point of view, which is the idea that when you're in a character's point of view, that everything that's on the page should be specific to that character.
Mhm.
Like, what vocabulary would that character use?
Mhm.
If they walk in a room based on their background, their job, etc., what would they notice first?
Mhm.
Like, what wouldn't they notice?
Yeah.
Like, that nothing should be generic.
Yeah.
Not, not their conversation, not their thoughts, that it should be very specific to them. And she is so good at that. The Black Hawk has a character, the male main character is Adrian Hawker, that's why it's the Black Hawk.
Yeah.
And he's actually in many of her other books, I think maybe all of her other books,
wow.
as a side character, more or less presence on the page.
Yeah.
And you sort of track in the background him, but also his relationship with the female main character, which has been since they were like 12 or 13. And then you get their story on it. And it's like in this book. So I would recommend first reading The Forbidden Rose, which has a lot of his background and her background. The female main character of the Black Hawk, Justine, she's also in there as a kid, like as a teenager or preteen. So you read that. It's also an excellent book in itself. The Black Hawk's Found Other Couple. And then you come to the Black Hawk, which is just stunning. I had a embroidery made of a quote from it. And she's just I will tell you one of the Joanna Bourne's quotes. I have another one here. It's something like, I can't see it offhand. But one of her quotes is, "There is a mighty army of what could be. Do not exhaust yourself fighting it." The idea that there's so much out there that could happen. And if you spend all your time fighting it and anxious about it, don't exhaust yourself doing that. But that's the sort of thing that she made that up.
Yeah.
But it sounds like an aphorism. That's something that should have been written before. She is so good.
Ooh. Okay. So. Excellent. I was taking notes. I'm very excited.
And obviously I'm not lying to you about the fact that I think this is I tell people about this book all the time.
Yeah. You're like, I had the book and I had a background and I had a quote. I was ready to go. I love it. Okay. The next thing we do is a rapid fire this or that. So we're just going to give you a couple of options and you just rapid fire. Okay. Are you ready? Right. Neely, do you want to go first or do you want me to?
I will go first.
Okay, great.
Okay. Second chance or insta-love?
Insta-love.
Okay.
Which is ironic given my next book is second chance romance. But sometimes second chance romance can be kind of bitter. Like if they parted in a really contentious way, and that's hard for me to read.
I feel like some people don't like insta-love, but I feel like insta-love can be very realistic. And you see someone and you're, kind of the love at first sight kind of thing. Okay. Paranormal or small town?
Paranormal.
Okay.
I've written both, but paranormal sometimes can be, I don't know. Yeah. Paranormal probably.
It's fun.
All right. Movie marathon or binging a TV show?
Binging a TV show.
Okay. One that's not.
Isn't it funny
pirated.
how we will commit to 10 hours of a TV show or 12 hours of a TV show, but we're like, 2.5 hour movie. It's too much.
Too long. There's no breaks. Okay. The final thing we always ask is a pick your praise. So good girl or look at me.
Look at me.
Oh,
Thank
it's
you.
back to you,
It's
Rachel.
back to
Finally,
me.
it's been some months.
A lot of people have been picking good girl lately, which is fine, but thank you for picking look at me.
Well,
all right.
Olivia, thank you so much for chatting with us. Where can people find you? You get to whore yourself out now. How can they find you and read your books?
Not the first time.
Yeah. Won't be the last.
Nope. My website is just oliviadade.com. So Dade is DADE.com. And the only social media site I'm on now, and I have a newsletter, so that's roughly every month, sometimes a little less, especially during the winter. Like I said, seasonal depression for the win.
Yes.
But I also am on Blue Sky. So that's sort of my social media home now. And yeah, other than that, unless you break into my house, you probably won't come across me.
Yeah.
So the main places to find me are Blue Sky and my website.
Perfect. And your books, wherever books are sold.
And my books.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, you can find the podcast everywhere at Smut Show Podcast. We're on all the things, and you can find me everywhere at Neelykins, except for TikTok, where I'm Neely Moldavian.
And you can find me everywhere at Rachel_M. Lewis. And Olivia, thank you so much for coming on. This was a joy-filled conversation, and I appreciated it.
Well, it was delightful to chat with both of you. I hope you're feeling better soon, Neely.
Thanks.
And
we'll keep an eye on her.
I was texting my husband. I was like, we have a guest on the podcast who has diagnosed me, and I think it's a safe bet.
I don't know. I can't promise, but it does sound like, particularly when you're on antibiotics, that can actually.
That's interesting.
Okay, all right.
That can cause stomach issues. And I hope that all of your food for the foreseeable future is cooked, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's so heartfelt. Yeah.
And on that note, podcast, we will see you guys next week.
Next time. Bye.
Bye.